We begin in the United States, where a New York court has denied a request from Sean Diddy Combs to be released on bail. It comes after a jury found the music mogul guilty of prostitution-related offences, but acquitted him on charges of racketeering and sex trafficking, sparing him a life sentence. Combs was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution and still faces up to 20 years in prison. The former billionaire was a top figure in American hip-hop, and his trial in Manhattan drew massive media attention.
Sean Combs pumped his fist as one of 3 not guilty verdicts was read out, falling to his knees as if in prayer as it became clear he'd been acquitted on charges that could have carried a life sentence. For Combs, or Diddy as he's also known, this verdict was a win, even though he was found guilty on lesser charges that could put him in prison for years. The lawyer of one of the victims seemed satisfied.
We're pleased that he's finally been held responsible for 2 federal crimes, something that he's never faced in his life. He still faces substantial jail time.
Jurors in the case heard 7 weeks of sometimes graphic and emotional testimony, including from Combs' former girlfriend, R&B singer Cassie Ventura, and a second woman identified as Jane. Prosecutors alleged that Combs forced the women to take part in days-long drug-fueled sex marathons, dubbed freak-offs, with male sex workers, while Combs watched, filmed and masturbated. But jurors were not convinced beyond reasonable doubt that this constituted racketeering, a form of organised crime, nor that the women were victims of sex trafficking. What was clear to them was that Combs was guilty of flying people around the US to engage in prostitution. The defense argued that the women were willing participants, emphasizing Cassie Ventura's decade-long on-and-off relationship with Combs. But prosecutors pointed to Combs' long-alleged history of violence, including this attack on Ventura in a hotel hallway in 2016. The video was also used as evidence when Ventura filed a civil lawsuit against Combs in 2023, accusing him of sex trafficking, sexual assault and physical abuse, reaching a $20 million settlement. That suit was the catalyst that led prosecutors to initiate the criminal case. Combs has apologized for the hotel incident and denies allegations of violence and abuse. No date has yet been set for sentencing.
OK, let's get more on this from entertainment journalist KJ Matthews, who's following the case from Los Angeles. It's great to see you. So he's been denied bail, but overall, how surprising are these verdicts?
Very surprising. If you had told all of us that the only thing that Sean Diddy Combs would be convicted of was 2 counts on prostitution, I think everybody probably would have said, I don't believe you. And here we are. He was charged with racketeering, not guilty on that. He was even charged with sex trafficking, not guilty on that. So that just leaves prostitution charge. And normally, federal prosecutors would never only bring a federal charge of prostitution to court without other charges attached to it. So they really had belief that this jury would find him guilty on all the counts, and if not on all the counts, certainly more than prostitution. They also have a over 90% conviction rate. So this is a huge blow to the prosecution and a very big win for Diddy, even though he was convicted of those 2 counts on prostitution.
So where does this big win come from? Good defence lawyers? Bad prosecution case? Where's it all coming from?
You know, a lot of people have asked that question. It's a very fair question to ask. I think the situation might lie in the fact that we all agreed that Diddy was guilty of domestic violence and certainly guilty of assault. The problem is the feds did not charge him with that. They charged him with racketeering, which is something completely different. And many people have felt that perhaps they did not present a very strong case for guilty beyond doubt at all for this jury. It just wasn't enough evidence or enough evidence to their liking. And so I think so many people knew that he had had the book thrown at him. He was a bad person. They spent 6 weeks reminding everybody of that. But that was not what he was charged with. And that is not why they brought him into court. And so overall, I think the jury felt that they just didn't meet the limit that they needed to meet in bringing all the evidence forward for sex trafficking and also for racketeering. I also think, you know, over the 6 weeks, you had more than 30 witnesses testify. And of course, Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, that he had a settlement with, and she ended up getting $30 million, and they were together for like 10 years. She talked a lot on the stand. And there were a few times where she wasn't really showing that she didn't want to be with Diddy. There were times where they had those freak off parties and she was texting him. I think one time they showed in court that she said she was ready for the freak off party. She liked it. There were other times where she was complaining against it. And so I think maybe the jurors didn't just get an idea that she was a person that was sex trafficked. And a lot of people, when they think of sex trafficking, they may think of teenagers and people who you've never met before, you know, forcing you into some city or to go someplace you don't want to be and you don't know the person. They don't see it as a person being in a romantic relationship for 10 years. Although, you know, there was plenty of evidence that she was abused and a victim of domestic violence. They just didn't feel like racketeering was there.
Yeah, so is this verdict likely to change anything when it comes to the situation of abuse of power in the US industry when the optics have changed in this sense?
You know, so much has changed since the Me Too movement. And things really are changing politically. You know, you probably have been watching the case of Weinstein. He was retried and was found not guilty on one of the counts recently. People are starting to change their mind and not just believe everybody every time someone accuses them of something in Hollywood. And being canceled is not popular anymore. So things have changed. I don't think it'll ever be popular or accepted to be abused in Hollywood. And certainly when you have it on camera, the way that was shown to all of us that, you know, Cassie was beaten like that. So no, that'll never be acceptable. But giving people a chance to earn respect back in Hollywood again, to have a comeback, possibly.
KJ Matthews, thank you so much. It's really great to get your insights. A court and a jury is very different to the court of public opinion.
Absolutely.